We would like to welcome you to episode 1 of Audio Suplex Live, brought to you by the Nerd Complex Podcast Network. I'm your host, Heel Corey, my co-host, Dr. T, and our guest this week, Adam Rains. Hope that's all right.
No, that's not okay.
The phenomenal Adam Rains.
We're getting somewhere.
Oh, man. That's taking us back a little bit.
Well, what would you prefer we call you tonight? Just Adam?
Sure, that'd be fine.
Too difficult? You don't have a kayfabe name?
The Phenomenal Whiz Kid.
The Phenomenal Whiz Kid.
Yes.
Phenomenal Whiz Kid. Is that in reference to Wiz Khalifa or?
No, it's in reference to my 3.8 GPA that I currently have in college.
Dang. 3.8. Regular Chris Masters over here.
Holy schneezy.
Regular Matt Stryker over here.
Shit.
All right, David Otunga.
All right, guys. Well, this is episode 1 of our podcast. We're going to give this a try. I figured we would start off today. Let's go over what we're going to talk about. We're going to go over a little bit of NXT Takeover. We're going to talk about the Royal Rumble. We're going to talk about Raw and Smackdown, 205 Live, and NXT. We're going to cover all of that, hopefully within an hour, or as close to an hour as we can get. But first, we're going to talk about us, because obviously this is episode 1. Many might not know that much about us. So let's start with Travis. Travis, what's your back history in professional wrestling?
Certainly. So I've been watching professional wrestling for a long time. Started out in the late 90s, early 2000s, like that really big boom period during the Monday Night Wars.
Absolutely.
Unlike anybody at this table, I was definitely a big WCW mark during the Monday Night Wars. Definitely a big WCW fan, big NWO guy. Diamond Dallas Page was one of my favorites. Sting, just what they were doing in like those late 90s.
Absolutely.
Super good. But I mean, that ended up translating into a fanhood for the WWE as well. And then eventually, kind of like the early onset of my wrestling fandom, some of the indie stuff, I was definitely a big like ROH fan in its early incarnations. CZW was big on. Fell out of it for a little bit and then kind of came back around sometime around like 2014 once the NXT brand started taking off.
Absolutely.
I think where a lot of us kind of came back in.
That is when I started watching wrestling again. Absolutely.
So yeah, I've been kind of in and out of it, but definitely back into it for sure.
So you started as a WCW mark, and here you are years later watching the WWE. Got the network, all that jazz.
Oh yeah.
$9.99. All right. Well, let's go to our guest, Mr. Adam over here. What is your professional wrestling backstory?
My professional wrestling backstory, bit of an icebreaker of myself. I was a late bloomer. I'm obviously the youngest out of the group.
It's not obvious to the people listening. They don't know. I mean,
yeah,
you do 19. Sound young.
I say you sound
You're
at least 35.
Oh yeah. Well, 19 going on 20. So
going on 20. That makes you sound older.
I started really getting into the Ruthless Aggression era for around 2003, 2006. Brock Lesnar, Undertaker, Evolution. I was a big Randy Orton fan, big Triple H fan. I liked the Evolution. I liked John Cena as a kid. Not so much now, but things change.
Warming up to him.
Yeah, I think I'm warming up back to him now. Yeah. I liked. What else did I watch?
You told me earlier you were a TNA fan.
Yes,
which is
big TNA fan.
I don't know very many of those.
Not very many of us. Yeah, I follow TNA and WWE both very closely.
Okay. So was there ever a time that you stopped watching wrestling, or have you always just ever since you started you've pretty much kept up with what's going on?
Around 2008 to around 2012, I kind of just completely checked out.
I did not watch any wrestling at all during that time. I think I stopped around 2008 as well.
It got pretty bland, pretty stale for me, so kind of stayed away from it. Got originally back into it around 2014, same as Travis.
Yeah,
NXT.
I think that's all of us. We got back in.
Yep.
Nice. All right, real quick, I started watching wrestling the same time Travis did. Mine was WWF based, though. I was more the Stone Cold, Undertaker, Mankind.
Yep.
My personal favorite was Kane as a child. And then I watched until about 2008 and got out of it. And then 2014 we started watching wrestling together, and we all kind of got more interesting. Kind of dropped.
A lot more interesting.
Dropped the realm of kayfabe and definitely changed the way wrestling is viewed. So. I think that's enough about us. Let's move on to our next portion. We're going to talk about some news that has developed as of late. Travis, what do you got to start us off this week.
So obviously the biggest bit of news coming out of this week is the injury to Seth Rollins on Monday Night Raw.
Brutal.
Without going into too much detail of what exactly happened, suffered a leg injury again. Now I've heard conflicting stories about the time frame being anywhere from 8 weeks.
I just heard right before I got here, 8 weeks is what they're hopeful, I'm assuming. And Seth Rollins, if that's the timeline, it probably will be a little faster if that's what they think is possible, because he is the architect, so he can just rebuild himself pretty quickly.
Yeah, no, definitely really, really bad timing, especially with the final progression of the Triple H Seth Rollins storyline. Like it kind of felt stagnant ever since SummerSlam and the whole post-Raw SummerSlam, where they started the angle with Triple H essentially handing the Universal title to Kevin Owens. That was the inception of it, and it felt very stagnant for a while. Like they were kind of treading water with Seth Rollins calling him out on social media, and Seth Rollins kind of like, in a weird way, kind of making his way up the chain to get to Triple H. And it felt like everything was finally coming to a head, obviously in time for Mania season, and then this kind of happened. So, what do you guys think? What do you think is the best case scenario, and what do you think is the worst case scenario?
Best case scenario, I would say Seth comes back at Mania.
Yeah, let's hope 8 weeks is right around Mania.
Yeah, it's right around Mania time. Best case scenario, he comes back at Mania. They still continue on with the angle. He wrestles Triple H at Mania, and they both can just move on from that.
Yeah, I think if he is legitimately, it seems like it is a very legitimate injury at this point. I mean,
yeah, it doesn't
a lot of
seem
people
like
were wondering.
Anymore.
But if 8 weeks is the timeline, he can absolutely still appear on TV, and they can work in the leg injury into the angle, and it'll work out fine. Worst case scenario, if his leg is actually injured as bad as it was before, it seems you said it was the same leg. That could be months. So let's hope that's not the case, and let's hope that they can fit this into WrestleMania, because that's huge. They don't want to have this go any later than WrestleMania. It's not going to be good on any. It's Money in the Bank. It's not going to mean as much as opposed to the grand stage of WrestleMania.
And that's the thing. You want to bring out your biggest guns for WrestleMania.
Absolutely.
And they've been building up this feud since SummerSlam, essentially. So
arguably the biggest match that would be on the card. Goldberg Lesnar maybe would be for the casual fans. Match,
for the normal
casual fans,
as we like to call WrestleMania season, casual season. But
absolutely,
that's not an indication of the fan base or how we feel about them. But
I feel like I actually like the casual season. You get to see a lot of the older guys that you would normally see.
It has its pros and cons. Yeah,
the storylines don't necessarily go the way I'd like them to go, but you see a lot of the old talent, which is nice. Let's move on to our next point, unless anyone else had another mention here on the Rollins report.
Nothing, but we hope obviously Seth Rollins recovers quickly, and that
he's probably the best wrestler, one of the best wrestlers on the Raw roster.
Before we put this one to bed, let me ask you guys real quick though, before we move on. Do you guys think that there is something inherently? Now this is the second time Rollins has been injured. Mm-hmm. Do you think he is either injury prone? But also, this is one of the second times that Samoa Joe has been involved in the injury. Obviously, some people would kind of point to him as the reason for Tyson Kidd.
Probably karma on Seth Rollins' part.
My outlook on wrestlers having injuries, it happens. I mean,
correct.
It does, and
it does happen.
Rollins is the kind of guy that's wrestling every night.
To quote Corey Graves, this is not ballet.
Exactly. So, it's professional wrestling. These are real athletes. They have real injuries. I wouldn't say karma, because Seth Rollins definitely has had the finger pointed at him for the Finn Balor, Sting.
Yeah.
But
some people are heard about the Sting thing. Sting's old. He was bound to have
and Sting and Balor both even said that it wasn't Seth's fault. They should have trusted him, trusted the move in the situation. But stuff happens. I wouldn't blame Samoa Joe. I mean, if you watch the video, how they landed,
I didn't even notice he really got injured.
Yeah,
I heard about it. I'm like, okay.
You didn't notice, but if you watch closely, they did kind of land awkward, and that could have happened to anybody.
Yeah,
right.
Joe's a big guy.
He's a big guy,
and he can toss you around. Be careful.
So, to summarize, all the best wishes for Seth Rollins. Hope he gets better soon. Hopefully we get some
speedy recovery.
Interesting storylines out of this. I like where things are going, but we'll get more into that once we kind of recap Raw.
I hope they don't drop the storyline because of the injury. That would be foolish. I doubt it'll happen. But
So moving on, the next piece of interesting news this week is it was announced that finally, after many, many, many years and months of speculation and negotiations, Lucha Underground is coming to Netflix.
Awesome news.
It's fantastic for anybody who doesn't watch Lucha Underground.
I'm not a big... I like of what I've seen of Lucha Underground. I know you were watching, what is it, season 3?
Yeah.
I remember we watched them at your place, and then I actually got the Sling box or Sling app.
Yeah.
To watch it. I'm upset to find out you couldn't just watch all of season 1, all of season 2. They only had certain episodes. That's kind of lame. So I got rid of that. I'm glad that Netflix has season 1 and season 2.
Season 1 and season 2, they're going to come to the streaming service in the U.S. and Canada, confirmed on February 15th.
Oh, so that's real soon.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know what Lucha Underground is, you can find people there like Rey Mysterio. Some of the bigger names would be Pentagon Dark, as he's known on Lucha Underground, Vampiro, Matt Striker, the commentary team.
Johnny Mundo,
formerly Johnny Nitro. Yep.
Or John Morrison. Albert Del Rio was on the first season.
Yep. Chavo was on there, Chavo Guerrero. But basically, Lucha Underground is, in the best way to describe it, would be one part wrestling, one part soap opera.
Yeah, it's like a Mexican soap opera.
Yeah, like a telenovela.
Over the top.
Yeah.
I actually
the cinematics are great.
I like the dramatic storylines that they have. Like it keeps you tuned in every week.
I feel like you have to step back as a wrestling fan and realize, okay, this is obviously, it's more going to play out like a movie as opposed to a sporting event, which is fine. The way the storylines go, you just kind of, you remove yourself from the unrealistic things that happen in that world.
Yeah,
I guess you could say
you really have to divorce yourself from realism with Lucha Underground, and just
Gabe is very active in Lucha Underground.
And to kind of give some background on the program itself, it is actually natively broadcast on the El Rey Network, which is the brainchild of Robert Rodriguez, obviously. Absolutely. Of like Machete fame, acclaimed director, obviously, and his movies
Desperado
have a very gritty kind of sense of realism to them that you actually find in Lucha Underground as well. So it's definitely a Robert Rodriguez production. It's definitely got the feels of that. And the biggest complaint about Lucha Underground is that it hasn't been readily available to people. El Rey Network's not carried by a lot of cable providers. Yeah. And even to this day, like a lot of cable, like, it's on cable providers, but not a lot of people have cable. A lot of people like myself, I don't have cable. I have Netflix, I have Hulu, I have a number of different streaming services.
Yeah.
You know,
and it's not very, like I said, on Sling, which is one that you recommend, they don't have any of the older stuff, which was kind of disappointing.
So this will be really good a really good way for people to catch up with the first 2 seasons. Like I said, they're coming February 15th. Definitely get ready and definitely make sure you guys check it out once it comes over to Netflix. Yeah. So yeah, super big news.
Since we're talking about Lucha Underground, let's talk a little bit more about Lucha Underground. And I promise, if you're not a fan of Lucha Underground, this is the last thing we have to say about Lucha Underground this week. And that is, there is something going on with Pentagon Jr. What is going on, Travis? You fill me in.
So last month, Pentagon Jr., as he's known in AAA, which is a big promotion in Mexico, left that promotion with a number of wrestlers from that promotion, and with that, basically he lost rights to his name in that promotion, Pentagon Jr., much like how when a Cody Rhodes leaves WWE, he can no longer use the Cody Rhodes moniker on the independent circuit.
Right. And he can if it's not being televised or something,
correct.
Or if they're not making money off of his appearance or something like that, he's allowed to use it.
Correct. Shortly thereafter, he announced that he was going to be going under the name of Penta El Cero Miedo, which translates to Penta El Zero Fear, which is obviously part of his gimmick for anybody who watches Lucha Underground or follows the product.
He's a scary guy.
Announced today, AAA, the company that he worked for in Mexico, went by after him and trademarked that name as well.
So that he can't use it.
Yeah, so he's kind of in an interesting position where he won't be able to use the Penta El Cero Miedo name.
Hopefully next time he gets his own copyright before announcing to the world, this is my new name.
That would be a smarter move.
Well, yeah, and get all the Twitter handle accounts and all that stuff lined up ahead of time. Because
it would benefit him more.
That way you don't have to buy it off of someone like, oh, I see that you have the Twitter name that I want.
Now, interestingly enough, we also mentioned that on Lucha Underground, he's also known as Pentagon Dark. part of the conversation that's going on is whether or not he would be able to use the Pentagon Dark name on the indie circuit as well, since that one is technically
more noticeable to the American crowd at
right.
least.
And he's been working a lot of American bookings as well. He's been working a lot in a promotion in Chicago whose name is escaping me at the moment. He's been working a lot on the American indie circuit. He did some stuff with PWG this past year. So he's been definitely doing a lot of more bookings up here because it's more financially viable than it was to work in AAA. So there were rumors on Lucha Underground and the owners of that copyright, because the name Pentagon Dark is copywritten by Lucha Underground and those holders, that he might be able to use that on the circuit. But
I guess it would kind of depend on what the merchandising deal is. You know, if they're making money off of his name,
right?
I would imagine it depends on how much of the percentage they get from his merch.
Exactly.
If it's a huge percent, I'm sure they're gonna be like, "Go ahead, use your name, and get people to buy your shirts."
Right.
But if he owns the rights to the merch, maybe it's not going to benefit them as much. So
right.
I think that'll probably will play out on that.
Yeah, interesting. So we'll kind of see how that turns out. So
perfect. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's move on to this weekend's pay-per-view events that we had to sit through. Many hours, pretty much a whole day, if you combine all the wrestling that we had to sit through.
If you think about it, it's currently Thursday. Mm-hmm. We have watched wrestling every day since Saturday.
Yeah, hours of wrestling, trying to catch up.
Takeover was 2 hours. Then you have a 2-hour pre-show for the Rumble, 5 hours. Like, it was insane. So much wrestling.
The fact that they could, I will commend the WWE. The Royal Rumble in the main card, it did not feel like it lagged on at all. They filled that time slot up beautifully. No real throwaway matches on the main card. You know, no bathroom breaks, if you will, which I thought was nice. Do you have the NXT Takeover card pulled up? Let's just go over the winners and losers and maybe what we thought, or if you have any comments you want to add about what happened.
Just as a heads up, a little bit of a spoiler alert in case none of you have actually watched any of these shows, but it's also about a half a week after the fact,
spoilers alert. If they're gonna listen to this, hopefully we're doing them a service of giving them everything that happened. They don't have to watch.
Right. Certainly.
We did all the work. We watched the 12+ hours of wrestling this week for you.
Grueling 12 hours.
So the first match of the NXT Takeover San Antonio card was Eric Young of Sanity. Went over Ty Dillinger. Obviously, NXT stalwart. Huge fan favorite, but also kind of using that, like...
he's never really been pushed to a high level. I mean, he does get some wins over usually unnamed guys.
He's never been...
He's good at losing.
He's essentially the new incarnation of Tyler Breeze now that Tyler Breeze is on the main roster. Whereas
not as over the top, obviously, as Tyler Breeze.
The guy comes out with like a dog cone around his neck,
he
got the number 10 over.
I think that will work a lot better than
Tyler Breeze. Yeah,
I'm sure.
Which it is good to see Tyler Breeze kind of settled into the role that he is now on the main roster.
I like Tyler Breeze. Yeah. I think it's worked out for him. Comments on that? You guys thought that Ty Dillinger. That's Jesus Christ. Ty Dillinger was going to win that match when we talked about it.
That was one of those ones where it was a coin flip match. Like I could see the booking go either way.
See, honestly,
I took into account Insanity's ringside. So you got the numbers game there. Big Damo or whatever he's going about.
Killian Dane.
Killian Dane was his first real big showing as part of the group.
Right.
I definitely saw that coming, and a lot of people assumed Ty Dillinger would maybe be in the Rumble, so I assumed, take a loss on your way out to help out that gimmick that's sticking around. So that's absolutely why I thought it was going to happen.
Certainly. So either way, Eric Young goes over, which actually kind of I think catapults him up the card a little bit.
Yeah,
I could see him as
he's one of the bigger names there.
Yeah. So and he has that TNA pedigree, essentially. So a lot of people are kind of already familiar with the brand name.
And having a stable like that as a heel is a huge benefit. He doesn't have to be as good as whoever the champion is. He just has to be able to outnumber or outsmart. And that's how you can change the title to a heel at some point when you have a babyface champion.
And we'll get into this a little later, but I could see post-Mania Sanity making a big push up the card in NXT.
Oh yeah, I could see Eric Young being an NXT champion
across the board. Yes, I can see that whole stable.
Tag team champs. Yep. I mean, they don't have a mid card belt really there.
But then the women's champion, which we'll get to later,
absolutely,
they have a contender in that with Nikki Cross. But Second match on the card, Roderick Strong in his NXT Takeover debut, going over Andrade Almas.
I feel like Almas is just there to take the losses in the big matches. They put him in these championship contenders matches, and he does pretty well.
He's a talented worker.
He's great.
He's great in the ring.
He was great. He wrestled in Mexico for a long time, 2007 to just now, right before he came to WWE. And I like him a lot. It's just he's not getting the big wins.
I think they could do a lot more with getting him some heat. In terms of, because you look at the NXT roster and you see guys like Elias Sampson, who really just kind of gets like that just nuclear heat.
Nobody seems to like him.
No, if they can get that kind of heat on Andrade Almas, I think they'll really have something there. He could
team him up,
and he could be a top heel in the sense of like, because we live in a weird era where heels are cheered and faces are typically booed on, but sometimes revered.
It kind of depends.
With the exceptions of your Shinsuke Nakamura's and stuff like that. I feel like Andrade Almas can almost kind of have that Miz heat where it's like a pure, just true heat with the crowd.
Yeah, that would be definitely good for his character.
But pretty good to see Roderick Strong go over. I think they're going to position him in that main event title picture as well.
He's a face. We got a heel champion right now. Yeah. It could be him. It could be.
I could see them pulling the trigger on Roderick Strong.
And putting him in that NXT title picture.
Cassius Ohno was the other one we were talking about.
Which we'll kind of get to him a little bit later as well.
He's a face, so it's got to be a face, and it looks like Nakamura's going to be injured.
Yeah.
We're not to that yet, though.
Yeah, but once again, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So third match on the card, the Authors of Pain with Paul Ellering at ringside, going over the much ballyhooed, much loved tag team champions of DIY, capturing the belts. I didn't think they would take the belts off of DIY this quickly.
See, I saw this kind of coming. If you really look at it from a kayfabe stance, everything, that's how they're trying to sell it to you. Right. The Authors of Pain are this unstoppable tag team. They're heels, which is another thing. They're big monster guys. They have a manager who cheats for them. So they got a lot going for them. Right. And they're competing against DIY, who's these two small guys, hard fighters. But realistically, in the kayfabe and the way they're trying to sell this to us, there's no way that they're ever going to be able to beat them. They're not going to cheat to win because they're baby faces.
Yeah.
Right. So the only way I would see this ending with them retaining the belts would be some sort of disqualification. The bad guys get caught cheating, something like that. But the Authors of Pain, they had to win. You don't want to have them eat their first loss and you're going to stump their momentum.
Right, because they have been on a huge momentum push since entering NXT.
DIY, they're already over at the crowd. They can eat a loss, and the fans are still going to love them.
And this kind of sets up for some interesting things. You have a rematch clause.
Absolutely.
They can milk that out until the takeover before Mania, takeover Orlando, or takeover
Miami?
Orange Grove, or whatever they do.
It's
Miami.
I don't know if they'll call it that. Hopefully they
take over Miami.
I don't know. I think they should go back to their old where they did like the
Arrival and
Our Evolution.
Our Evolution.
See, I feel like with that they were going to kind of run out of names eventually.
Yeah, but I don't want them to reuse any. But
I kind of like the city naming system, but I don't think Miami flows well.
Just think of in a couple of years that you're going to have, Takeover Brooklyn 14.
I'm okay with that.
I guess.
Anyway.
I feel like it. Okay. You convinced me. It makes sense. WrestleMania, we number those, and that's okay.
Yeah. And you always know that the SummerSlam takeover is generally going to be like the biggest because I think Brooklyn kind of set that precedent.
Oh yeah,
right.
The original Brooklyn was a phenomenal show. Brooklyn 2 met the expectations.
Yeah.
Sold out Barclays Center for a developmental brand pay-per-view.
See, I think this has probably been the pay-per-view we're talking about now has probably been the weakest in a long time.
But by all stretches of the imagination, still a good show. So
absolutely, it had a lot of people surprised and on their toes.
It was from before the actual pay-per-view was very underwhelming looking pay-per-view, very underwhelming looking card, but it delivered.
I feel like they waited to book a lot of these matches until the last minute, and it was kind of, oh really? That's a pay-per-view quality match, okay?
Right. But it delivered.
It did.
Fourth match on the card. Asuka, champion, defending her title against Nikki Cross, Billie Kay, and Peyton Royce. Asuka going over the three other women competitors.
Not a surprise.
Not a surprise, although if they were going to take the belt off of her being the monster that she is, this would have been the perfect opportunity.
And that's my big issue with this match was the booking.
they set it up like they were going to pull the trigger on getting a new champion, and they didn't, which is fine. But then what are they going to do?
Yeah, at this point, Asuka is nigh unbeatable. So unless you bring back like a Nia Jax or some other monster heel to take her down, you've kind of booked yourself into a corner with this.
I mean, they could probably do a gimmick match of some sort where she loses on some shenanigans.
Yeah. I thought this would have been the perfect time to do it, though, because it's a fatal 4-way.
Yeah.
The champ doesn't have to get pinned for the decision, and they had the perfect opportunity with Billie Kay and Peyton Royce being a unit with one another. I had my money on there being a spot with one or the two pinning the other and winning the belt,
right?
And just
letting them pin,
or pulling off
or even seeing them turn on each other would have been interesting to where,
right?
That could set up a feud between them. Now that Asuka lost, she loses the rematch somehow because that person, the other chick, interferes, and then Asuka can move up to the main roster.
Right.
I don't think she's ready. I don't think she's that great on a mic.
She's got a little work to do there.
The English language is not something she is necessarily great at on the microphone.
Could have a situation on the main roster, and this is all speculation, where we have a manager, kind of like a Paul Heyman-esque.
Yeah, I think that may be the only way, just because I haven't seen her really improve too much.
Right. But we'll kind of get into it. I'm sorry, what's that, Ben?
I said one thing I want to point out about that match is how they booked it, how Nikki Cross was not a part of the finish. Actually, and it took two girls to put her through a table, so I think they're kind of like
Nikki Cross is being booked very strongly.
Yeah, she's being booked very strongly, and I can see sometime in the future that Nikki Cross will be the one to take the belt off Asuka.
That could be a very good possibility.
Yeah, I could see Insanity getting all the belts would be an interesting storyline for NXT.
Yes.
Who's gonna stop Insanity?
Yeah.
Or Sanity, not Insanity.
It's S-A, capital S, capital A, lowercase n, capital I. I don't know. It's weird how they typeset it. It's weird. Interesting. Just a side note, completely. How do you guys feel about Sanity's music and entrance?
I think it's interesting.
It's Borderlands-esque.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's cool. When they debuted, I thought it was pretty cool seeing that all play out.
It has a different aspect to it. Like it's different. It's not the norm.
Right. Yeah, so your main event from NXT Takeover San Antonio, the glorious Bobby Roode going over Shinsuke Nakamura, the current reigning NXT champion, and capturing the NXT championship in the process.
This was a bit of a shocker to me.
Yeah, I mean, they ended it the best way they could have, the way they've booked Nakamura as this unstoppable, Joe was the only man that was able to go
toe-to-toe with him.
And Joe, again, is a monster heel. Bobby Roode is not a monster heel. He is a sneaky heel. He hasn't really wrestled that much.
Yeah.
He's only had a couple matches in NXT, so those fans that didn't watch him in TNA maybe not know him that well. But he's definitely not, I would say, on the performance levels of a Joe or a Nakamura as far as
he's not going to be
speed and stamina and going the whole time.
Bobby Roode's not going to put on 5-star classics. He's not going to give you an Okada Omega. He's not going to give you a Styles Cena.
I mean, I don't know how much you remember of the match, but the first 3 minutes of the match, they kind of just danced around in the ring. Nobody took any hits. They kind of danced into the ropes. It was a very drawn out match because obviously Nakamura could have.
And Bobby Roode is very skilled, just like as he was in TNA. He's a I work with what I have type of wrestler.
Yeah,
I make it work. He makes it work.
Yeah,
he makes it work most definitely.
Absolutely.
So kind of interesting though. So now Shinsuke Nakamura is injured, which is, we don't know if it's I'm pretty sure it's a work.
I would say it's probably a work. Again, that's the only way that you're going to see that title change hands realistically is an injury like that. And it sounds like he's going to be out probably until WrestleMania time. Possibly his last match in NXT could be at TakeOver.
Oh, I could certainly see him being a
night after WrestleMania
call up. The shows up, and maybe he's the equalizer to somebody else that we'll kind of get to later.
Maybe.
But so all in all, pretty good card. It was kind of like, as Adam implied earlier, kind of underwhelming when they announced the official card for the show, but. Mm-hmm. I think it pleasantly surprised all of us.
So. Yes, it delivered.
It was good. It was good. Like I said, not as good as some of the other ones we've seen, but I was not disappointed at all that I spent 2 hours watching some pay-per-views we watched, and it's like, oh, God, okay, that's how it ended. Oh, right. Glad I stayed up for this. I don't know. All right, so that wraps up our NXT Takeover review. That took up a little bit more time than I had anticipated.
Right.
So we're going to go through the Royal Rumble really quickly. This is going to be a hard one not to talk about, but we'll probably try to blow through the main card and maybe focus on our thoughts on the actual Rumble match itself.
Right, and I have the card pulled up here. So real quick, just to kind of go over pre-show match, Becky Lynch, the team of Becky Lynch, Nikki Bella, Naomi, defeating the heel team of Alexa Bliss, Mickie James, and Natalya. Kind of a quick way for them to...
Naomi pinning Alexa Bliss, setting up the championship match at Elimination.
What I got from this match, it was ways to conclude two feuds, ways to start the Naomi Alexa Bliss.
Exactly.
So
that's all it was.
I think they're going to drag out Nikki Bella and Natalya a little further. Maybe
they got a match. They have a match in Elimination Chamber. We'll see how that plays out. I actually hope it ends the feud. The feud's been going on.
Me too.
It's a little cheesy for me.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of the same crap.
Right. And then it also kind of fuels this new Becky Lynch, Mickie James feud.
Yeah, so I think that'll be another match, probably maybe on the pre-show of... It's kind of bad to say Becky Lynch is going to be on the pre-show of the pay-per-view, but I don't think it deserves a spot on the pay-per-view. So hopefully they either don't put it on the pay-per-view and just not have the match at all.
Right.
I don't know.
So second pre-show match, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson finally reaching the top of the tag team division on Raw, defeating Sheamus and Cesaro in a weird match that had two referees.
Yeah, and one of them, I thought the end, because Sheamus knocked out the ref, right? Is that how it went?
You thought it would have been like a disqualification?
He would wake up and say, like, just exactly what happened on the Raw before. You know, oh, he's disqualified. He hit me.
And then have like the refs arguing it out amongst
each other. And they could have dragged this out a little longer. And I feel like they could have.
That match was bittersweet for me because the club finally get the belts, but on the pre-show.
Right.
Yeah, it felt weird having a title change on the pre. And again, they're trying to get people to subscribe to the network that maybe don't have it. Okay, we saw. Oh wow, that was in the pre-show.
Okay, yeah.
On the bright side, at least the Raw Tag Team titles were defended on Royal Rumble in some capacity, as opposed to the SmackDown titles, which we'll get to.
And the champs weren't even on the card. Not even on the card. Couldn't find a spot for them.
Oh, Lord. Third pre-show match, Nia Jax defeated Sasha Banks in essentially kind of a glorified squash
This made
match.
sense. If Sasha is injured, as we are led to believe, her knee injury, I think it only made sense to have Nia Jax win here. Pretty no-brainer.
Kind of ragdolled it around a little bit for the duration of the match.
That match went exactly the way I thought it was going to go.
It wasn't really a lot of offense from Banks towards Jax. It's a squash. Yeah.
And it makes Nia look good, and it's a realistic finish for Sasha given her injury.
Agreed.
So.
Right.
No qualms.
First match of the main card, Charlotte Flair, which is apparently her new official booking. She's the only person who gets a last name besides Sasha Banks.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Defeating Bayley, keeping the pay-per-view win streak alive.
Makes sense. I think Bayley's going to take it at Mania. I think that's what a lot of people are saying, but I think that makes sense.
The big rumor right now is that they're looking for a fatal four-way at Mania between Nia Jax, Sasha, Bayley, and Charlotte. Kind of interesting to see
it gives them something to do, but I would rather just see a Bayley-Charlotte. Bayley wins
rematch
finally.
at Mania.
Yeah, like they build up to just Charlotte destroys Bayley all
the
way up to it.
The fatal four-way could be a way to keep booking Charlotte strong. So like she loses,
but I wanted to see her lose.
You want to see her lose?
That's what this has all led up to. I think
is that you want to see Charlotte lose
pay-per-view streak. Give it to Bayley, who...
That's the perfect baby face to take the
streak to. Absolutely.
And
give it to Bayley.
Tell me you can't see in video packages from years and years and years going on, Bayley with her WrestleMania moment of beating Charlotte on the biggest stage of them all.
And there's going to be some kids there that she's going to be celebrating with and all that jazz.
So I'm going to skip around the card a little bit because there's two matches I want to talk to kind of next to each other. So we'll skip ahead to the Cruiserweight Championship match. Neville defeating Rich Swann, taking the belt off of... Rich Swann kind of quickly after his reign started.
Yeah, it was a short. It's hard. We're on what? This is our fourth champion. This is our fourth cruiserweight champion. TJ Perkins, Brian Kendrick, Rich Swann, and now Neville.
Yes,
we're on 4 champions since the CWC.
I think Neville's gonna hold it for quite a while.
That's what people are saying.
They want that spike in 205 live rating, so I can see him.
What I want to see them do, if they really want to get 205 off the ground, they need to sign some legit cruiser, Rey Mysterio or a guy like that, who has a name, who's a champion, a world champion. But he's a cruiserweight, so he can bring those fans. Because right now it's pretty much all indie guys. So having all those Indian guys, not Indian, indie guys, the casual fans are going to want to watch that.
Listen,
we don't know who these guys are.
Listen, the Bollywood boys have been on one show, man. You don't have to call them all. No, but and I agree. Like Brian Kendrick has some
a little
to
bit.
his name,
and then Neville helped a little bit, but he didn't really have much.
They did
before that.
They did have. They were working with Tajiri a little bit and kind of getting him in that main event.
He didn't pass his physical.
No, he was injured.
I heard he didn't pass. They were testing him, and he did not pass to be able.
No, because he appeared on 205 Live.
He appeared
after they were going to sign him for 205 Live. Not after the CWC, right?
Because he was on 205 Live.
Yeah, he was on 205 Live.
Yeah. He made his appearance. He had a couple episodes. They actually started a feud with Brian Kendrick, where Brian Kendrick came out and was like, "Hey, it's good to have another veteran on the show."
Holy cow! Tajiri
missed him, and then sets up like a feud for them, and then Tajiri got injured.
And he was just gone.
Yeah, so I could have easily seen Tajiri fit, but I think you're right. Bringing in another big name or two, which kind of brings me to another point we'll talk to during Raw. Where does Austin Aries play into all this?
I think he'll be a big name for 205 Live, but a name like Rey Mysterio would be awesome.
Yeah.
I think that would pull in a lot of those casual fans.
Yeah.
So the two matches I kind of want to talk to hand in hand are the two title matches, the Universal Championship match, the match of 1,000 stipulations, as I like to call it, and then the WWE Championship match. First off, the match of 1,000 stipulations. Kevin Owens defends the Universal Championship against Roman Reigns. Surprisingly good match.
Yeah, it actually surprised me a lot.
Yeah, I thought there was almost going to be a problem with too many cooks in the kitchen. You have Chris Jericho suspended in a shark cage because we got to move play sets above the ring.
I think they probably sold a lot because that match was awesome. I think they're going to sell a lot of those play sets.
Yeah. I'll throw you 2 words right here. Sexy Pinata.
Sexy Pinata. They should package it with Jericho in there. I think it comes with Roman Reigns now if you buy
it. Surprisingly good match though. And then they also made it a no disqualification match, which I think was
pointless.
Yeah, it was kind of.
You got Jericho locked up. What? If it's gonna be no DQ, then don't worry about. Just ban him from ringside, or something. I don't know.
When they announced that stipulation, you could almost kind of smell the shenanigans from a mile away. You knew there was no way Owens was.
Everyone was thinking the belt was gonna get dropped. The U.S. title belt was gonna get dropped.
Right, or some shenanigans in some capacity. So
yeah.
The match itself, I thought it was pretty fantastic. Yeah. A lot of good spots from both Reigns and Owens.
Mm-hmm. It was 23 minutes long. It was only a minute shorter than the AJ Styles John Cena match that we're going to talk about next.
For a no disqualification match, that's a pretty good time.
23. I mean, overall, just to go back a little bit, Charlotte Bayley was 13 minutes, and the Neville Swan was 14 minutes. So those were within a minute of each other as well.
So that's good. So they gave a lot of time to the two title.
They never give time to the cruiserweights unless it's 205.
Right. So all in all, I thought it was a really good match. Interesting. Owens wins by interference by Braun Strowman.
I was almost positive Reigns was going to walk away. I was going to be disappointed, and that didn't happen.
So Braun Strowman interferes, puts Reigns through a table in the ring.
They actually put Braun over with the crowd too.
Yeah, which is
they were chanting "Thank you, Braun." I think we're going to talk about that later.
Which isn't really an indication on Braun Strowman as a performer. Not to take away from him, but that's more of an indication of Roman Reigns' booking in general. But yeah, I think it had all the trappings of like, oh God, here it comes. Reigns is gonna super Reigns, and he's gonna overcome all the odds, and he's gonna win this. And then luckily Strowman comes out, interferes, Owens retains.
Yeah.
Moving into, in my opinion, the match of the night.
Absolutely. With
it wasn't. I will say it wasn't a 5-star match, but it was definitely.
I say 4.75.
No. Really? You think?
Yes. A lot of people think it was just a match full of spots. But
my problem is when I watch John Cena wrestle, he's a great wrestler. Just seeing him call everything, him yelling what the next motion in the match is going to be, it takes me out of the match line. He does that a lot.
Right.
Interestingly enough, though, it's funny you say that because David Meltzer put out his ratings for all the matches from the weekend, and he specifically gave it a 4.75.
Really? Cow. I was just trolling just now.
Yeah,
I know that.
So 4.75 star match according to Dave Meltzer. Pretty good match.
Yeah, I liked it.
Very good match.
Wasn't a fan of the outcome, but
I mean, you knew it was going to happen eventually.
Had to, yeah.
You can't listen.
I was most definitely not a fan of the outcome. I'm pretty sure both
Styles deserves to go into WrestleMania as champion.
Yes, without a doubt.
But we also got to remember, and I know we kind of, as a friend group, throw this term out a lot. This is casual season. Yeah, We'll kind of see how it goes going into Mania. I'm sure they'll come up with something cool for AJ to do. I don't know.
Well, it sounds like the Chamber's going to change the title, so maybe Styles gets it back. I think that's unlikely, but it is a possibility.
I don't think so, and that's because of the outcome of the Rumble match itself,
That's
which
right.
we will get into. 30-man over the top rope Battle Royal Rumble. No,
the big one,
the big match of the night. No real huge surprises this year.
I'm assuming we're probably not going to run through all of the entry levels.
No.
I have some facts. Let me read some facts of the Rumble that I gathered. Chris Jericho entered number 2. He was in the match for over an hour. He only eliminated 2 people. Do either of you know who the 2 people he eliminated? I'll give you a hint. They are a tag team.
I do, because I have the list in front of me. It was Sheamus and Cesaro.
Sheamus and Cesaro were eliminated by Jericho.
How could we remember that Jericho spent half of his hour
outside? Yes, he was there over an hour. He broke Triple H's record for most time in the ring. He was really not that far behind.
He was like 5 minutes away going into the match.
Blew it out of the water. Let's see. Zayn was in the match for 47 minutes. He eliminated 0 people in that time, and he was eliminated by The Undertaker,
who entered in at number 29.
I wanted to see Zayn.
Yes.
I wanted to see Zayn in the Final 4.
He went a long time. It would have been a nice thing for him, but that's not how it played out. Let's see here. Baron Corbin only eliminated
one.
Sorry. Braun Strowman was the only person that
was a big elimination.
Yeah, the only person he's a monster. I figured
if you're gonna get one big elimination, it might as well be Braun Strowman, who also had the most eliminations in the match.
7. Yes, and Corbin was in there for 32 minutes, which is a pretty decent amount of time.
Holy cow.
To only eliminate one person, though,
he was in for 32 minutes.
Yeah.
You know who else was in for 32 minutes was The Miz.
The Miz, yes.
And God bless The Miz.
Yeah.
He kind of pulled the opposite of Jericho, whereas like Jericho was in there for 61 minutes, which you may have heard or may not have heard about.
Yes.
He may have mentioned it. But no, so The Miz was in there for 32 minutes, and I kid you not, go back and watch it again. He took pretty much every last ounce of offense from everybody entering the ring. He took an F5. He took a number of finishers from people who came in.
I noticed that.
Yeah,
I didn't notice that either.
Yeah, The Miz really took.
He was able
lot
to.
Of offense.
I think he's just not on the tier of the mega star that you gotta. You can't do too many big spots on the big guys because then it kind of lowers their stock.
He took a lot of major moves in that match. So,
I have just a few more short facts.
Yeah, go ahead.
Taker had 4 eliminations. That was the second most in the Rumble. Ellsworth had the shortest amount of time, 15 seconds, and the second shortest would be Enzo. He was only in the match for 18 seconds. Those were your 2 shortest amount of times in the Rumble.
Cool.
Well, at least they broke Santino's record.
So the winner of the Royal Rumble this year.
They didn't break it.
Winner of the Royal Rumble this year was the number 23 entrant, Randy Orton. Which, couple things I want to note about this. So your number 30 entrant, which is the only thing anybody could seemingly talk about. Yeah. Let's get this out of the way right now.
The booze.
I think the Rumble match itself, even given the lack of any true surprise entrance, and also knowing what we finally know from Monday Night Raw and to a lesser extent SmackDown, was pretty good. Yeah. I wouldn't say it's in your top 5 Rumbles of all time, but I would say it was a solid Rumble. It accomplished kind of more or less what you wanted to accomplish with it.
There wasn't as many jobbers not jobbers, but lower card guys than you typically have in a Rumble.
You had your comedy spots and you had your feel good spots. Like you had Jack Gallagher coming out at
first eliminated
number 5, which his whole sequence with William III and the umbrella and coming out and doing
was great,
fantastic. Harkens back to a lot of those old Rumbles where somebody would come out like Santino and get like a good little comedy spot. You also had probably the most underwhelming Kofi Kingston spot, as it's kind of known.
Yeah, I was kind of when it happened. I remember saying, "Is that it? Is that the spot?"
I could kind of see like the bookers going like, "Oh shoot, we got to sneak this in somewhere," and we didn't even really think about this. And then at the last minute, like, "Okay, cool, just grab the ring."
It actually looked pretty painful the way he landed on his chest.
So that was cool. You had the James Ellsworth spot, which everybody kind of knew was going to happen, but still a good little comedy spot, especially with Dean Ambrose being right after him at number 12 and doing the whole like, okay, we're going to go in together bit, and Ellsworth going in kind of like Ambrose getting revenge for No Mercy and all that kind of stuff. So, so you had your good spots, and then also we can't bury the lead here. Number 10,
Mr. Ty Dillinger.
Ty Dillinger
double duty this week.
Coming around from NXT. It was one of those kind of, Are they going to do it? It almost makes too much sense to do it.
I'm glad they did.
I'm very glad
but
they did.
I think we all were kind of freaking out about it.
Yeah. And it was a feel-good moment. This guy has worked his ass off.
They've been chanting 10 at every pay-per-view for the last couple months. Like, he's earned it. He's got enough notoriety. They're going to sell 10. T-shirts. They're going to sell T-shirts.
Yes.
So, welcome to the main roster.
Yeah, you had no Samoa Joe or Shinsuke Nakamura or Finn Balor coming back.
Very disappointing.
No Kurt Angle.
But I think all in all, it was a solid Rumble. Now, number 30... Roman Reigns. The boos in that stadium were deafening.
Let me just say, the only reason I can see that they would do this
is to take the heat off of Randy Orton winning.
Maybe. I'm hoping it's to set up a heel turn, because that's a lot of heat to put on the guy that you're trying to get heat off of.
Especially when you have
eliminate
the
Undertaker. Because if that's the match at WrestleMania, Reigns is not going to be the babyface in that match.
No,
they're not cheering Reigns.
Not a chance
at all.
Yeah.
Zero offense from Reigns is going to be cheered. So they need to turn him.
You could probably put a disabled veteran up against the Undertaker, and he's still probably paying the face.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
He tried being the heel at last WrestleMania against Shane. He tried to be the bad guy.
There's no way.
And it didn't work. So they kind of backtracked. Like, okay, he's not a bad guy.
Taker's just a level
He's just
over
doing what he needs to do.
Yeah. So
paying the bills.
So I've heard a lot of speculation about Reigns coming out at 30 to take some of the heat off of Randy Orton, who was inevitably going to win the Rumble.
Yeah, he was booked the odds-on favorite with bookies to win the Rumble. When I saw that before, I was like, I don't think so. But he won.
And that kind of sets up a couple other things. We'll get into a little bit more once we recap Raw and Smackdown for the week. But
which
overall,
we're gonna breeze through.
We're gonna fly through those.
We're gonna give you the highlights of the highlights.
Yeah. So overall, what did you guys think of the Rumble? I mean, I
thought it was good.
I thought the show in and of itself, you had two really good world title matches between like the Universal title and the WWE title.
If I had to give the Rumble a grade, I would say C plus B minus.
Really?
See.
I would give it a solid B plus A minus.
I don't really want to give it a grade. I will say this: if a pay-per-view, especially one that is as long as that pay-per-view is,
well, if you put it into that
by the end, I'm not like, oh, is it over yet? Like, okay, man, it's getting late. Like, what's
right?
I honestly, the Rumble ended, and I could have watched another hour of wrestling, really, because they had my attention pretty much for the whole pay-per-view. So I think they did a good job. I don't want to give it a grade.
I thought it was a solid show though, and I think a lot of people
B plus player.
A lot of people give it heat for the number 30 entrant. You really can't. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of things in kayfabe. You know, if Roman Reigns is going to be in it, why isn't AJ Styles? There's a number of different angles you can look at it, but looking from the booking overall and the potential stuff, because you got to remember the Royal Rumble is designed to set up for WrestleMania.
Correct.
That's all it's for. So, did it accomplish this in an entertaining way? Yes. So I have to give it a solid grade. So
thumbs up.
Moving forward to Monday Night Raw. So this is the big one. This is the 10:30 or the 1:30 Raw.
Yeah.
Show opens up. Kevin Owens, Chris Jericho come out. Chris Jericho selling his performance in the Royal Rumble as Chris Jericho only can.
The 61-minute man.
Hashtag 61-minute man. Curiously enough, Byron Saxton, referring back to the Kevin Owens Roman Reigns match from the previous night, where Kevin Owens erected a pyramid out of chairs.
Erected it, huh?
Yeah. Byron Saxton curiously calling it a steel chair erection. Take that for what you will.
Wow.
But yeah, so Owens
don't literally take it.
Owens and Jericho come out. They start cutting their promo about Jericho's accolades in the match, how Kevin Owens, has an issue with Mick Foley for putting him in these less than advantageous situations. And then Braun Strowman comes out, and Braun Strowman, in a stroke of "I'm not as dumb as you think I am," brings back a clip from last month where Owens says, "If I beat Reigns if I retain, you're next in line."
You're next in line. I thought that was hilarious seeing him. All right, show me the video.
Right.
Come on. Hey, Mike in the truck. Come on, play. We talked about this earlier. Play the footage.
Braun Strowman, like the last person you think would have like a big video library in his head about like what happened when. But
a little out of character for him. But
I like how they had the continuity with the story.
Absolutely.
Though,
I'm glad that they brought that back up and it wasn't just a line, offline on an episode.
Wasn't the third? It actually set up for the main event for the evening, which curiously was in the middle of the show.
Yeah, they do that sometimes on Raw, I think. Were they competing with anything on Monday?
Not that I can think of. I don't think there was any big games or anything. But one of the big things I think I've realized about 3-hour Raw is that you kind of have to have a big thing at the end of each hour to get the crowd to come back in. So
that's the thing. If let's say I was watching something else and that show's over at 10 o'clock and I switch over to USA to watch the second half of Raw, it's not going to hurt WWE to have something big happening right then to kind of block you onto the channel. If you get there and it's I don't know what kind of segment they could be doing. Gold Dust and R-Truth or shooting a promo in the ring with the
Shining
with
Stars,
the Carlones or whatever they are. Yeah, the Shining Stars. I'm going to turn the channel. Probably.
Right. And that's, and I think that's why they kind of stagger those matches out. So your actual last match of the night was Enzo Amore and Big Cass versus Jinder Mahal and Rusev, which we will glaze over later.
Yeah.
So basically after that, after they set up the main event for the night, Universal title match, Kevin Owens versus Braun Strowman. They leave Chris Jericho out there for a non-title match against Sami Zayn. Zayn goes over.
Yeah.
Super huge. Clean as a whistle, too.
Non-title
no shenanigans.
match.
Non-title match. I think this sets Zayn up for something to do going into Fastlane.
I say he would get a title shot at Fastlane.
Yeah, maybe.
So, but if you're Jericho, you lose the title to Zayn, are you going to be that easy to jump over to a feud with Owens?
Who's to say? I don't.
I mean, unless
it's a way to transition into
unless Owens holds on to the belt. And at WrestleMania, Jericho's like, you know what? Screw my rematch. I want the world title. I want not Jericho. I want Owens.
Well, there's a number of ways to go with this, and a big rumor that's persistent right now, which we'll kind of get into maybe a little later, would be that they may even end up taking the belt off of Owens before Mania.
Yeah. That's always possible.
So we'll see how everything goes with that. But yeah, Zayn over Jericho, totally clean as a whistle. Backstage segment between Cesaro and Sheamus with Bayley.
Yep.
And the heel team of Charlotte and the newly crowned Raw Tag Team Champions, Gallows and Anderson.
A little bit of bullying going on.
Yeah, pretty standard backstage segment. Nothing crazy going on. Sets up for a mixed tag team, 6-man tag team, 6-person tag team match later on. Getting into that match, kind of exactly what you think it would be. I think the chemistry between Bayley and Cesaro and Sheamus was a little bit forced in terms of, but that's also indicative of, I think, Bayley's promo style.
It's a difficult. First of all, the match is a difficult match to have because it's not you're not gonna have a man and a woman wrestling each other. Right. So every time there's a tag, you got to switch out whoever's in the ring. It's just a difficult match. It's just a way to mesh two different storylines together into one match, so we can get you on the card, progress your story a little bit. And I believe was that Bayley picked up the win over Charlotte.
Yep. So, and it's kind of weird because you'll notice when we talk about SmackDown, they're doing this trend of where the upcoming challenger continues on TV to get pinfall after pinfall over the champion, and then when it comes to the pay-per-view,
champion retains.
So, kind of interesting booking there, but we'll kind of see what happens with that. Side note, really good to see the club with the belts. They look good.
Yeah.
The promo and their interaction with Charlotte was really fun to watch.
It wasn't too cheesy. You know, it wasn't
cringeworthy at all.
It wasn't what they were doing with the New Day.
It's definitely not as cringeworthy as it could have been. And one other side note from this, go back and watch the entrance. Sheamus's reaction to the wacky waving inflatable arm filling tube men is absolutely priceless.
I did not
He kind of just gives him like the stink face. And just
he's still kind of a heel at heart.
He's a soft Cesaro's all about it. He's waving with him and stuff. So, so one of the overarching themes throughout the night is they kept hyping up this idea that we're going to have a confrontation finally between both Stephanie McMahon and Seth Rollins, and then inevitably Triple H and Seth Rollins. So they recap they show a promo package recapping the relationship between Seth Rollins all the way through the authority angle to where it stands currently with the Universal title match where Kevin Owens won. And also recapping something that we glossed over from TakeOver, Seth Rollins showing up at TakeOver.
Yeah, we did not mention
he actually opened up TakeOver.
Really?
No, he did not.
Well, not during the pay-per-view.
No, he did not.
No, it was
in the middle of the card.
Middle of the card.
It was the middle of the card?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I thought he opened.
Yeah, so Seth Rollins came out in the middle of San Antonio TakeOver. Now, obviously, in the world of WWE, it's kind of weird because you have this mangled mess of reality and kayfabe, and how they kind of intertwined with each other is kind of weird because in reality, Triple H is literally the godfather.
Every day.
Yeah, he's like every day running NXT. That's his baby. That's his child. So for them to mix it in storyline-wise and have Seth Rollins come to, as he put it in the promo later, Triple H's backyard and say like, hey, I'm here, I'm in your house, like, what are we going to do about this? Kind of interesting how they're mixing those two worlds together. The lines between reality and storyline are kind of blurring a little bit, which is good. So another theme throughout the night, Owens trying to get his match canceled with Braun Strowman to no avail. Fast forward a little bit, cruiserweight action, Tony Nese versus Mustafa Ali. We'll talk a little bit about this with 205 Live, but Tony Nese getting some pretty strong booking here.
I love Tony Nese.
Fantastic. He's got a great look.
Even during the CWC, I was like, I dig the Tony Nese guy. All his matches, so since then I've been a Tony Nese fan for sure.
Yeah.
I feel like after the match though, Austin Aries interviewed him, right?
Yeah. So after the match, Austin Aries does probably one, and we'll get into this more a little bit with 205 Live. One of the craziest, funniest post-match interview.
I feel like he kind of buried him a little bit. You know, he's essentially saying, "Hey, you have no charisma."
Right.
Which you kind of need to be successful in wrestling. Which you don't want to put a spotlight necessarily on that.
The exact quote from Austin Aries was, "You've been accused of having clearance rack charisma," which to me is one of the funniest things that I think I've ever heard in my life. So once again, strong booking for Tony Nese. Moving forward a little bit, you have the Seth Rollins, Stephanie McMahon confrontation.
Yeah.
Kind of a big thing. A couple things about it. It's exactly the intensity that you would see and expect from this kind of feud. My biggest issue with this promo that was kind of interesting, kind of weird, was the depth of which they kind of had Seth Rollins take it, almost in the role of a heel, to where he made sexual innuendo and implications towards Stephanie, and then also made there was a line where he made a threat of like, you know, tomorrow or yesterday it's like NXT. What happens when I show up at your house and knock on the door?
And your kids answer the door.
That was
weird.
Kind of a little dark there, Seth. Like I get
it's
I get the feeling they kind of said just go with it. They maybe trusted him with the promo, and he just got a little bit
dropped the ball a little bit,
too wrapped up in what he was, and just kind of ran it. It just didn't work out.
Yeah, it was kind of a weird. It was a great promo, I think, up until that point where it kind of like blurred line, and then also, and I know I've heard it said a couple times, is nothing that Stephanie McMahon or Triple H have said about Seth Rollins about him being kind of underperforming since he left the Authority has been untrue.
Yeah.
Like, so, you know, all in all, they still are kind of right in this situation. So it's kind of,
I guess we'll see how with his injury, we'll see how that all plays into how the storyline.
Right. Worth noting, there was a backstage segment between Foley and Stephanie McMahon where she kind of got on his case about undermining her, and then also him having kind of like calling her out for questioning his intelligence with the whole Triple H thing.
I just don't get their dynamic.
It's definitely not a smooth dynamic. I could see them kind of breaking up that unit.
It's just Stephanie's heel, and then she's face, and then, well, not face, but she does things that more of a face GM would do, and then she's the super mega terrible heel GM. So
right. So another cruiserweight situation. Neville comes out for the official coronation as King of the Cruiserweights. Cool segment. Rich Swann obviously comes out, interferes or interrupts it essentially. Yeah. Kind of plays the high road with it and says like, hey, you are a great performer. You know, it was a hell of a match. Like, I concede. You did a great job. Neville takes it a step further, tells him to bend the knee.
I'm the king. You need to bow before me.
Right. Setting up, I think, obviously, if not Fastlane, then maybe even drag it out to Mania and having like a...
I'm thinking I'd like to see a multi-man match at Mania, maybe a ladder match.
To kind of take the place of the IC belt.
Yeah, because I don't know if they can do that with the IC or the US belt, just given the amount of guys you need who are on that level.
Right.
To be able to perform realistically in that match. I think the cruiserweights would probably have an easier time, and that way you can kind of spend the next 2 months building up whatever 6 guys or 7 guys you want to put into that match.
Yeah, you have the roster for you. You basically throw the entire roster in there.
Neville win that match.
Right. So kind of interesting, and that'll continue a little bit on 205 Live. Universal title match, exactly what you think's gonna happen happens.
Braun wins the title.
Braun Strowman, your new universe. No, I'm just kidding.
Unfortunately.
No, so in a bit of retribution from the previous night, Roman Reigns comes out. Interference in the match. Kevin Owens retains via disqualification. Kind of interesting. So there's a little bit of a micro feud started from Mania with Reigns eliminating The Undertaker. which would
that's what it's looking like. It's
implicate a heel turn for Reigns, but then also he's attacking heels on Raw and getting retribution on Braun Strowman. So
that you could still be a heel that gets revenge on another heel.
Yeah.
So faces don't get revenge like that.
So what do you guys think? Do we see do we just blow off this Strowman Reigns thing at Fastlane and then set up for
that would make sense.
Taker?
And maybe Taker has something to say with what happened at that match. Taker interferes and says, I don't want you. You cost me the Rumble. I cost you your match with Braun.
Right.
Interesting.
I want my match.
Yeah.
Was that the last match in Raw?
That was with the exception of the aforementioned Enzo Amore and there was another Sasha Banks and Nia Jax match, rematch from the pre-show of the previous night.
Why do they do this crap?
My biggest thing with this, there was no selling of the injury by Sasha Banks.
I hate when they do that.
She does. She's one of the.
Especially that's a key point to the feud.
To why? Yeah.
She does her.
To why she lost too.
She does her entire intro, her entire ramp entrance. No selling of the injury whatsoever. Yeah. So, once again, more of the same thing. Couple last little notes from the show is one, Paul Heyman comes out, cuts a scathing promo with Brock Lesnar.
Yes, unannounced Brock Lesnar appears.
Unannounced Brock Lesnar appearance, scathing promo. It's one of those promos I feel like, when I say the Austin 316 promo, you know exactly what I'm talking about. When I say the Dusty Rhodes Hard Times promo, you know what I'm talking about.
People bring it up.
Yeah, so when
mention it.
Yeah, so in the future when people talk about the Paul Heyman, Brock Lesnar, but promo, I think this might be in that same category.
It's really good. It's really good. The audience was receptive to it, which is nice.
Which I've found with the Brock and Goldberg feud that they have a hard time sometimes getting the audience to play the way they want them to with it.
Well, we saw that when they were in Brock's hometown and they tried to get heat on Brock for some reason. It does not work. But,
this was the perfect crowd for that.
Yeah.
This was they literally, the crowd ate it up. So and then the last segment of the night would have been the final confrontation. Seth Rollins, Triple H, confrontation in the ring. Triple H comes out and cuts one of the most scathing promos that I've heard from Triple H in quite some time.
Yeah.
And then Seth Rollins comes out to confront him finally. We're finally going to see the payoff, the big face-to-face confrontation, until, while on his way to the ring, Seth Rollins is intercepted by Samoa Joe.
What?
So, and
Senor
I think
Joe?
And here's what I say when we were talking about the Royal Rumble and how we kind of have to discount it knowing what we know now.
Absolutely.
I think it's a better idea to, you could have brought Joe out.
Unless he was going to win the Rumble.
You could have brought Joe out in the Rumble. And here's the thing. Two things would have happened if you would have been in the Rumble. He wouldn't have won, which would have been
could have,
but it would have been kind of a waste of a debut.
Right.
And two, when somebody like that comes out to the Rumble, they're immediately going to get a big babyface pop. Like they're going to get a huge ovation.
You can't come out as a heel.
Exactly.
It's difficult.
Right.
Unless you did something that they didn't want you to do.
This better suits the character that they want him to be, which is this big monster, unstoppable, or as Michael Cole said it, Triple H is heavy. His lapdog, his attack dog. So kind of interesting. Obviously, there's crazy new implications with the way that the injury to Seth Rollins during this plays out. We'll see where it goes, but Samoa Joe finally on the main roster, albeit on the red brand. I know a lot of people aren't happy about that, but
we'll see how it
I think it works. I think for the storyline, I think it works.
Maybe he doesn't sign an exclusive deal right away. Maybe he's there for a while and he's like, you know what? I never actually signed a contract with you, Stephanie. I got some business I want to take care of on SmackDown. I don't know.
We'll see.
Fantasy booking. It's not going to happen. We're just over an hour now. Are we good with going? Let's try to wrap this up an hour and a half.
Yeah, we'll see.
Try to see a 90-minute first podcast. It's hard to get a whole pay-per-view in and then do the 4 shows that are on
right.
week. So I'll try to blow through SmackDown. Hopefully I took worse notes than you did, so I can just kind of breeze through. This is SmackDown. This is January 31st that we're talking about. Show opens with AJ Styles, Shane McMahon, and Dan Bryan talking about the Rumble and how great it was. AJ obviously did not feel that it was so great. Demands his rematch, and they kind of brush him off. We'll get to your rematch, blah, blah, blah. we got the Chamber to look forward to. So they kind of set up the Chamber. Dean Ambrose comes in. He's in the Chamber, that stuff. They announce officially that it's John Cena, AJ Styles, Bray Wyatt, The Miz, Dean Ambrose, and Baron Corbin in the Elimination Chamber for the WWE.
I would like to intercept on the AJ Styles saying they're going to award him his one-on-one, right? But
they said we're not going to worry about that right now, essentially.
So
they said yes. Okay. But they're not going to worry about that.
Until after the Chamber?
I'm assuming after the Chamber. Maybe WrestleMania. Maybe it could be the pay-per-view after WrestleMania. Hopefully they don't do a triple threat at Mania, but maybe hopefully they push it off until whatever the pay-per-view is right after Mania.
Right.
Let's see here. We'll just say that's how that played out. John Cena comes to the ring. He's your new 16-time WWE champion. He comes out and he actually talks up AJ Styles, saying how great of a performer and how he earned his respect and all that, which I think is kind of funny. AJ didn't earn his respect when he beat him clean at SummerSlam, which I thought was interesting.
Right, like a week before.
It took Cena to finally beat AJ for him to earn his respect, which I thought was kind of weird. But
interestingly enough, a week before, he's a guy from Atlanta, and then I beat you clean in the ring at the second biggest show of the year, and then suddenly you have my respect.
Yeah, the exact line. He called him just a guy from Atlanta. His exact quote was, "AJ is an elite WWE superstar who brings out the best in me." That is the exact quote. I will say John Cena, when he's on commentary, he typically puts the guy he's feuding with over, says how great they are, so that it looks better when he beats them, I'm assuming. So we're going to skip ahead a little bit. Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton turn up. They cut a promo about the Elimination Chamber. Bray claims that he will leave the Chamber as the WWE champion. Luke Harper shows up to help John Cena, and that is what draws Shane McMahon to come out, and they book a tag team match.
Yeah, pretty good match too. I like the back and forth between the dynamic of how Luke Harper is still trying to be in the good graces of Bray Wyatt, not getting any offense in on him.
I will say, so he did play kind of a baby face at the Rumble because he did fight with both Bray and Randy. Did you notice his attire? He had a clean white shirt on as opposed to a dirty white shirt, and he had clean brand new jeans.
Curious.
So he has cleaned up, and he had this, I believe it was a hoodie or a jacket or something, but that was also clean. He was not as dirty as he typically is portrayed, which I thought was interesting.
I didn't imagine that him and Cena would be the team that I thought that they were, but it was I was
kind of half expecting to maybe see Harper turn on Cena to try to win his way back into the Wyatt family.
Adam, 2 notes. I want to see how you feel about this. So the match ends with RKO on John Cena, with Cena taking the pin from Randy Orton. 2 things. 1, if it takes 1,000 finishing moves from AJ Styles the night before to put down John Cena, but 1 RKO, are they protecting the RKO, or are they selling?
I don't know. It's the consistency there is tough for me to believe.
Or are they selling the injuries from the night before?
Yeah, I didn't think about it that way. Although he didn't
appear
to come out.
Right.
Yeah, he was pretty hyped with his belt, celebrating.
John Cena taking the pin. How do you feel about that?
Unexpected.
Yeah, typically you would think unexpected. Luke Harper would take the pin in this situation.
Going into that match, I was like, "There's only one way this is going to end: either a no contest or Harper eats the pin."
No.
Or do you think they're building something up between Cena and Orton?
Which we'll kind of get to a little bit when we talk about the Elimination Chamber, but
they booked it for next week. Randy Orton versus John Cena. That's a little further ahead, but they do officially book that match. A WrestleMania preview, if you will, if that's how the cards get played. But next week on SmackDown, we have John Cena versus Randy Orton for the 20th time on television.
But the first time in this incarnation of SmackDown Live.
That's true. So it is the first time, at least one-on-one, that they will have competed.
Maybe Mauro Ranallo can add a little bit of a spice to this one. We'll see.
He definitely will.
I think it'll be a good match. They both are great performers. Randy continues to make me believe that he is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time.
Right. When he wants to be.
Well, I was a little sour on him with the WrestleMania 30 Dan Bryan, that whole storyline with Batista. I was like, okay, Randy, you just don't have anything for him to do. And we started doing this thing with Bray Wyatt. I was kind of not believing it, but he is a performer unlike any other. He is high level. So
what happened next?
Let's go ahead. that ends with a RKO out of nowhere, which we didn't mention. That is how he picked up the win. Actually, we did.
I literally just mentioned that, but you know, who's counting?
I'm sorry. They did tease Harper and Bray a lot, and that didn't really come to fruition necessarily.
A lot of variables there too.
The next match is something that we can probably glaze over here. It was Ellsworth comes out to announce Carmella coming to the ring. She had a match with a jobber named Delilah Dawson.
Yeah, local talent.
Yeah, she actually wrestles for. Shoot, I can't remember. Some relatively well-known indie promotion. Of course, I didn't write down her wrestling name there, but tattoos, rainbow socks, blue hair, like very over the top. But she actually did pretty well. I don't know if these jobber matches are helping Carmella because these are typically pretty lengthy as for a jobber match that she's having. It's not really booking her very strong. Ellsworth is always there helping her out with the match. Carmella ends up winning with a submission, whatever her submission is.
Code of silence.
I thought this was funny. I don't know if you guys caught this, but I believe it was Mario Ronaldo that said that she looked kind of like the Blue Meanie.
Yeah, which is a funny callback.
If you don't know about Blue Meanie and JBL, JBL said at least Blue Meanie is talented,
which might be the nicest thing JBL's ever said about
pretty sure that is.
So
I
looked into this, right? So obviously, I'm assuming you both know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of backstage heat between the two.
The Meanie and the
and all Meanie said was that he was a bully. He essentially just said, "Hey, he's a bully. He made fun of my weight and blah, 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 and he was not very nice." And word got to JBL, and Meanie was out of the company and came back for ECW One Night Stand, and JBL beat the crap out of him for real. Punched him in the face, made him bloody. But they have since reconciled, and apparently they are friends. So they're friends on Twitter, and apparently that they have buried the hatchet. I figured that out after doing a little research. So actually him saying he's a talented man, maybe he actually believes that now. I don't know if they've buried the hatchet on that.
But either way, super just quick squash match. It's literally just a device to get Carmella and Ellsworth some screen
Something
time.
to do so you get the idea of what they're trying to sell you.
Right.
Moving on to a super uneventful match, kind of a rehashing of what we've seen the last couple of weeks. Kalisto comes out to face Dolph Ziggler. This match was probably only about 3 minutes long.
This match was verbatim the same match that happened the week before.
Well, didn't he wrestle Apollo Crews?
No.
It
was Kalisto's the week previous.
And then Apollo came out and saved the day again.
Same exact.
Yeah. Super kick.
I don't know if
Kalisto was done. I don't know. I mean,
I don't know if I listen. I get it. Dolph is a good hand. He can pretty much do whatever you give him, but having him just kind of be the king of the lower mid card is really kind of.
And they decided, so Ziggler was trying to rip off Kalisto's mask, because if you're a heel and you're wrestling someone with a mask, there's
clearly
easy heat for you. Try to take the mask off.
Why not? Put a thumb in their eye too.
Let's skip over that there. That's pretty much how that played out. They cut to a backstage segment with Lynch and Naomi talking about what happened the night before and how they're the best women wrestlers, blah, 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 blah. Typical face promo, trying to hype themselves up. They end up having, let's see here, Naomi and Lynch versus Bliss and James was the match that they booked. I hate to say that Bliss is by far the sloppiest wrestler in this match. As you're watching it, she is real sloppy. Her moves are not connecting. There's a lot of air between her fists and whoever she's hitting. She did a move off the top rope where she was probably a good 1.5 feet off of the body of the person she landed on. It just looked really sloppy.
Now, in counter to this,
which is not normal. I mean, that's not normal necessarily how she wrestles, but she definitely looked the sloppiest.
I don't know if you have this point in your notes or not, but obviously they're setting up, and as they announced on Talking Smack later, we're getting a SmackDown women's title match between Alexa Bliss and Naomi.
Absolutely.
When they initially started this idea a week ago at last week's SmackDown, I don't know if I was necessarily bought in as Naomi as the next in line for number one contendership, but
2 victories within a week over the champ.
The hot tag to Naomi, her coming in, was probably one of the best hot tags.
She was on fire, and if you really think back, I don't know how many Naomi matches you can actually recall, but she's really good about that. She's usually, she gets the hot tag. She's got a lot of quick and exciting moves that she's able to pull off, and she usually does that a lot in tag matches, I've noticed.
Now, whether or not that actually carries out to a good singles match with her and
Bliss on the I don't see her beating Bliss realistically.
No,
I would imagine if Bliss doesn't beat her clean, Mickie James will probably insert herself again.
Bliss is going into Mania with the title.
I would hope so.
Anyway,
let's move back on American Alpha. Cut to backstage segment saying they've had the belts for a month and nobody has stepped up.
Where are you at, SmackDown Tag Team Division?
Where you at, I guess.
Non-existent.
Where you at, Oos?
I haven't seen the SmackDown division in a while. I didn't even know they still had a SmackDown division.
It is depleted, and what can I say about the SmackDown Tag Team Division
Squad
that hasn't been said about Afghanistan? It looks bombed out and depleted.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, jeez.
It's bad.
So they're back talking backstage, and they decide, you know what, we're going to open an issue challenge. Open an challenge.
That's
what I meant to say. My bad. So they go out to the ring, and they're like, oh, who wants to challenge us? And the Usos music plays, which I'm kind of excited. They're probably the most qualified tag team.
Yep.
Agreed.
At least that's not doing something. I guess you could say Randy
Which would
Orton
make
and
sense.
Bray Wyatt are probably a pretty decent tag team.
Let me stop you right there. So out of all of us who watch SmackDown, tell me you were not gripped at the edge of your seat. I remember because we have a group chat amongst the group of us where I sent a message out to everybody, revival incoming, because I was sold. I thought, okay, you got Samoa Joe on Raw.
It kind of would fit perfectly.
Yeah. American Alpha goes out, like nobody stepped up to challenge us. Who wants to challenge? And then just suddenly that say yeah hits. And then
it would be great.
It would have been fantastic.
What I can see happening, which maybe I'm getting a little ahead of myself. We'll get to my point. Essentially, all of the tag teams end up coming out, so it's not just the Usos. I was kind of excited. That would have been a pretty decent match. But the Ascension, the Vaudevillains, the Fashion Police, Slater and Rhino.
That's all.
That's everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody comes out to the ring and they explode and they start fighting. And I thought was really interesting is they cut to commercial and they were gone for several minutes and cut back and they were still all brawling in the ring, pretty much exactly how we left them, which is a pretty long brawl to have. And the other interesting thing I saw, they knocked everybody out of the ring. And the last 4 people in the ring were your champions, American Alpha and Heath Slater and Rhino were the remaining 4, and they didn't attack each other, which I thought was kind of weird. I mean, I guess they're really the only two overly baby-faced teams. Right. And I was kind of half expecting them to have a match then. Okay, they cleared out the ring. These were the challengers. They earned their spot for their match.
Right.
And the segment just kind of ended, which I thought was kind of, okay. Uneventful. It set up a match for the Elimination Chamber. Obviously, we're going to have a 6-team
tag
team turmoil.
So they haven't said it's going to be in the chamber, which I think would only make sense.
No. So they actually announced later on Talking Smack that it's going to be a 16 tag team turmoil match. Essentially kind of like a gauntlet. 2 teams are going to start, and then once a team is eliminated, another team's going to come out. And here's what I think is going to happen. You're going to run the table between American Alpha and all the teams in the match. They're going to get all the way to the end. They're going to think that they've eliminated the last team, and then the revival will come up. So we'll see. I don't know.
Here's what I think is happening with NXT, though. So if you recall last year, a lot of call-ups came up. We had Baron Corbin. We had American Alpha. They had a ton of talent came from NXT to the main roster, and it kind of made NXT kind of suck.
Yeah. Not to mention there's been injuries down there with one of the members of TM61 out
Absolutely.
right now. So they may not call it the revival.
I feel like this year they're going to be a little bit more cautious with who they're going to let make it to the main roster just because they don't want to deplete NXT too badly.
Right.
If they continue to do that year after year, you're going to essentially kill your brand.
Not to mention you're also going to come up on post-Mania, another draft potentially.
Hopefully they do one soon. Yeah, right after Mania would be great.
You got to save some of that NXT talent for another post-Mania draft.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
wow. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on. No resolution. They go ahead and show a recap of the Nikki and Natalie feud. Very boring, blah, blah, blah. Cut to backstage. Dan Bryan's there. Natalia. Yeah, I think her real name's Natty. Okay, she comes out. She's got bodyguards. Nikki shows up. Blah, 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 boring. Dan Bryan makes the match for Elimination Chamber. Nikki Bella versus Natalya.
Which let me save some time now for any other matches for Elimination Chamber. Talking Smack afterwards, they officially announced Tag Team Turmoil for the tag titles. Women's title match between Naomi and Alexa Bliss. Yes. So now we have those two matches on the card. We also have the Elimination Chamber itself for the main event. We have the now announced.
There's only 4: chamber match, tag match, women's championship, and the match singles match. Nikki Bella and Natalya.
Yeah, so
those are the only 4 officially announced.
Not surprising anybody. They're going to blow that one off at Elimination Chamber.
Hopefully, the last time we see this.
We'll see.
And then I could see Nikki jumping into the title picture after that. She's probably the most qualified.
Just to kind of quell that a little bit, there are rumors going around for WrestleMania possibly being Nikki's retirement.
Yes,
I could see that. I mean, she's been around for a good amount of time. Her sister's not wrestling anymore. John Cena's probably going to be slowly stepping away, I would say, more so than he ever has.
We won't speculate too much on it, but I wouldn't be surprised if...
It makes sense. Yeah. It would not surprise me at all. Okay, so let's see here. Let's move on. Dean Ambrose and AJ come out for the main event.
Fantastic match.
Yes.
They announced Cena and Orton at the beginning of this match for next week, which, again, giving away the WrestleMania match for free, which is kind of strange. Before the match starts, Miz joins on commentary. The match is excellent. Very good match. Very back and forth. You know, nobody's really got the upper hand, which with 2 talents like that, you don't really want to have someone whoop on them too bad.
Right.
AJ's doing some of the chest kicks, and Miz says he's stealing my moves, which obviously those are Dan Bryan's moves.
The yes kicks, if you will.
I thought that was pretty good. Dean Ambrose at one point locks in a really good cloverleaf, which I thought was a really good. A lot of submissions at one point in the match. They kind of going back and forth. Let's see here.
Out comes Baron Corbin.
Baron Corbin is coming up. Let's see here. Miz sings AJ's praise for a great 2016. So Miz is actually selling for AJ. So
kind of interesting. Yeah,
that was
typically.
Strange. I mean, I can see they're both. The Miz is trying to maybe get on his good side.
But there's been interactions before where AJ Styles kind of buries the Miz a little bit as well.
That's interesting, yeah. Yes. So Baron Corbin comes up. We now have a ridiculous 7 people sitting there at commentary.
Which, if you guys haven't seen the picture of this commentary booth from SmackDown,
it's insane.
Literally, it's because you have a 4-man team to begin with Phillips, Otunga,
which is really large,
and JBL. But then you add Miz with Maurice and Baron Corbin at the table. It's just absolutely absurd. Literally absurd.
So we'll move on. They're talking and bickering at ringside. At one point, AJ Styles is up, and Dean looks like he's going to hit a superplex off the top rope, and AJ slides between his legs. I've never seen anything quite like that. Very quickly, it was very good. Dean at one point blocks the phenomenal forearm. AJ blocks a suicide dive to the outside of the ring. More back and forth. Dean Ambrose blocks the phenomenal forearm again. Dean kicks out of an AA, the move where he does the AA like on the knee. I think is that Ty Dillinger's move or somebody?
Yeah, I can't remember the exact name of the move. It's kind of excruciatingly Japanese.
Looks beautiful.
Name.
Looked beautiful. He kicked out of that. Very back and forth. Dean gets out of a Styles clash and gets a lunatic lariat, as they like to call it. Dean elbows AJ to the outside. Where the Miz and Corbin start to break out and fight, and that distracts the referee. Dean hits, let's see here. Dean hits the Dirty Deeds, goes for the count. The ref is taken, does not get the count. It continues until AJ finally hits the Styles Clash and pins Dean Ambrose. At which point the Miz comes in and gets the skull-crushing finale on Dean Ambrose. Baron Corbin comes in and gets the end of days on the Miz. He gets the end of days on Dean Ambrose as well.
Looking very strong in the ring in the post-match.
Yes, destroyed the other 2 guys. And then the SmackDown ends with Baron Corbin standing over Dean Ambrose. The Miz is on the outside of the ring, and AJ is on the ramp staring down Baron Corbin. And that is the end of SmackDown.
So a couple points that we're kind of glossing over there from that is Miz on commentary. Absolutely fantastic.
Almost as always.
Yeah, which is something you expect from him. What really kind of sucked about this segment was that Corbin came out, joined the commentary table. Here's the thing. Corbin works really well when he's able to kind of just be by himself and
SmackDown
speak.
Live.
Live.
Talking Smack.
Talking Smack has done
great.
Numbers for Baron Corbin.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't really honed in that ability to have that banter back and forth with somebody else.
Yeah.
So if it's a situation where he's being interviewed and being kind of like poked and prodded and gets like questions out of him, that's fantastic. But in situations like this, and you, Adam, you had mentioned this to me earlier, he basically spent the entire time getting buried by The Miz and not looking very credible in the entire process.
Not at all.
So kind of cool for them to let him come in and get his heat back. Also good for Styles to go over to get his heat back from losing the title the night before. Overall, what do you guys think? Raw versus SmackDown this week.
Oh, man. Raw had a lot more big moments. Obviously, Samoa Joe is huge.
Yeah. I would say, in my opinion, I would say Raw based off that.
Yeah.
Because SmackDown, I mean...
I also think with Raw, you have the strength of a couple of really good promos. Like, you have that really good Triple H promo.
And
you
the
have that really good Paul Heyman promo.
Yeah. Well, there were 6 matches on SmackDown, which is actually a lot for SmackDown.
It felt like a very quick 6 matches.
Yeah, some of them were pretty short, but they typically have 3 or 4 matches. So I was surprised to see that much, not as much talking maybe as they necessarily normally do.
Right.
At 6 matches if you count the tag team scuffle, I guess you could say.
Right.
I guess that's not technically a match.
So, I mean, we pretty much have the entire card set up. Maybe 1 or 2 more matches sets up.
Yeah, I actually took some notes. People that aren't doing anything as of right now for the Elimination Chamber: Randy Orton, Luke Harper, Ziggler, Apollo Crews.
I wouldn't be surprised to see a Randy Orton,
Kalisto.
Luke Harper match put in.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, I said Randy Orton, Luke Harper, Ziggler versus either Apollo Crews or Kalisto, or maybe a 2-on-1 or something like that.
On the pre-show, maybe.
And maybe Becky Lynch versus Mickie James. Those will be the 3 possible matches I can see.
But I think, Elimination Chambers card, so far, so good. Without getting too far in the rabbit hole, because we'll talk about this closer to Elimination Chamber, I do think this sets up for an interesting WrestleMania main event.
Yeah.
Because obviously Randy Orton's going into the main event of WrestleMania.
One of the probably 3 main events.
Yeah. So a lot of people are kind of speculating, is it going to be Cena carrying the belt into Mania? It would make sense. You want to have your biggest names with the belt.
I think it's unlikely with the way they booked SmackDown match next week, unless that match doesn't happen or some sort of shenanigans break it up right away where there's no completion of the match. I don't see them giving away the match a month and a half, 2 months before Mania. My
opinion, and this I think is the popular opinion, is we could see something crazy here at Elimination Chamber with Bray Wyatt getting his first WWE title.
That would be absolutely crazy, but my problem with that is everyone's talking about that happening.
So we'll see.
Vince doesn't necessarily like when people know how it's going to play out 2 months in advance to where the point he'll change the storyline. So is it too obvious because there's a lot of things pointing to that, and it would culminate the Bray Wyatt, Randy Orton potentially storyline. So it makes sense, but I think it's just a little bit too obvious.
Right.
So we're not going to know for sure for 2 more weeks until after the Elimination Chamber.
Right. So just kind of gloss through 205 Live real quick.
Gloss through. Just give us a list of the matches, and if anything noticeable happened, and I will do the same for NXT.
The show opens up. Rich Swann is actually declared as medically uncleared to perform tonight, setting up for a tag team match where he was supposed to be in with Cedric Alexander against Neville and Noam Dar. Swann is uncleared, so Jack Gallagher actually takes the place of
fan favorite Jack Gallagher.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of cool main event setup. First match of the night, Tony Nese goes over Lince Dorado. Nothing new here, with the exception of, Nese, same thing in a repeat from 205.
Nese.
Yeah, the running Nese.
Love that move.
Repeat from the week before where he, after match shenanigans, kind of puts in that extra offense after the match to kind of,
solidify the heel.
Yeah, really kind of put himself over. Kind of interesting that they don't have he and Drew Gulak teamed up anymore.
I feel like they did it too much.
Yeah.
I mean, they literally were having them booked in a tag team match every week, Raw and 205 Live. They were doing
presenting them actually like they were an actual real tag team.
Yeah,
right.
Which is fine, but storyline,
kind of
they haven't gone anywhere with it, so why continue?
Right.
I like Gulak.
Well, that's the kind of thing with the cruiserweight division in general, is that they're kind of learning on the fly. They're seeing what works, seeing what doesn't. They're kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall, whatever kind of sticks.
Well, a lot of these guys, like I said earlier, a lot of these people don't know. Fans don't know who some of these guys are, so it's they really have to try to get something that works.
Right.
And it seems like it's a little bit more difficult for some more than others. So
to kind of recap that, the big thing about this match is that TJ Perkins comes out to get revenge from Nese's post match shenanigans with the turnbuckle suplex the previous week, setting up for an inevitable TJ Perkins Tony Nese confrontation.
I like that.
Recap of the Swann Neville showdown from Raw. Swann cuts a promo backstage selling his injury. Hype package finally coming to the cruiserweight division. Grand Metalik is going to make his debut very soon, kind of like how they were doing the Akira Tozawa hype packages.
I like
kind of cool. Yeah, kind of cool that they're staggering out the contestants, so that way kind of gives everybody room to breathe. So now we know
give you a chance to learn one guy at a time.
Right, we know who Mustafa Ali is. We know who
great offense.
Fantastic offense.
I love his finisher.
We know who Tony Nese is now. We know who TJ Perkins is. So now now we have.
Slowly falling into their roles on the card and where they're going to be on the show.
So fast forward that leads me to the next segment. Brian Kendrick comes out to join commentary in this new role of where he's kind of just welcoming anybody new to the division as the de facto, I'm the heel here, let me get my words in.
Yeah.
Debut of Akira Tozawa finally on 205 Live. If anybody knows me personally, you know that I'm excruciatingly excited for this. I'm a big Akira Tozawa fan. Loved him in the CWC.
He lost in the finals of the CWC.
No,
right?
he was in the semis. No, the quarterfinals. I think he lost.
Who was in
Grand
the
Metalik and TJ Perkins.
Yep.
That was the final.
Yes.
Okay. So it must have been the semifinals.
Yeah.
Because I thought he was going to win. I remember watching and thinking he was one of my favorites to go all the way. TJ Perkins, I did not necessarily.
I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I think his performance was a little bit weaker than some of the
with
other
the Cruiserweight Classic. They saw something in TJ Perkins early on that maybe just didn't translate to the main roster.
They probably thought they could sell him,
right,
and it just didn't pan out as well as they probably hoped.
Yeah, no. Just kind of recap actually. Tozawa actually lost in the quarterfinals to Grand Metalik, who ended up going into the finals against TJ Perkins. So Akira Tozawa makes his 205 Live debut. Super cool match. The crowd, which was Corpus Christi, Texas, which is notorious for being one of the least vocal and, for lack of a better term, worst crowds in the WWE circuit, actually got really behind.
Not too bad.
Yeah, they got behind Akira Tozawa. Akira Tozawa, for those who don't know, super vocal competitor, definitely known for his in-ring banter in so many words. Either way, picks up the win over Aaron Solo, who, trivia fact, is the significant other of Bayley from Raw.
Yeah, I just learned that.
Yeah, so yeah, pretty good, pretty solid introduction to Akira Tozawa. He gets his offense in. He gets that snap German suplex as a finisher, which, if you tried to sell somebody on a German suplex as a finisher in 2017,
too many people do it.
They'd tell you it's insane, but then you see Akira Tozawa do the snap German, and it is absolutely insane.
Yeah, beautiful.
Main event time, you have the tag team match between Neville and Noam Dar teaming up against Cedric Alexander and Jack Gallagher.
Yes.
Yeah. So pretty cool, really good match. Kind of cool to see Neville not necessarily play I'm a heel, you're a heel, let's be friends.
Right.
Really interesting dynamic between Noam Dar, even through a previous thing between them backstage, where basically Dar's trying to endear himself to Neville. Neville's having none of it. Neville's like, I'm the king, I don't need you, I don't need any of this, just go out there and do your job and we'll be all right. So pretty good match back and forth. Ends with Neville basically walking out on Noam Dar and leaving him to the face team to inevitably pick up the win. One note about this: Jack Gallagher could sell ice to an Eskimo. My goodness. He took all of the heat in this match. He literally took, I want to say, maybe just 3 matches worth of offense from Neville. And Neville is especially with his new heel brawl style, very hard hitting.
I'm kind of interested. A lot of people are saying that Gallagher's probably the next in line, or potentially soon. But if he's getting that stomped on by Neville, is it a realistic?
We'll see. I mean, they could do an angle where he kind of comes at it from a more academic mindset, and kind
he
of
has to figure out how to beat the king.
Right. And
I also want to note that I don't think that time's coming anytime soon. I think they're gonna ride out Neville for a long time.
Yeah, let Gallagher get some of his.
But to have him a realistic threat to the champ, you need to build these guys up as realistic threats, and if he's the one that's getting the most airtime,
it's kind of like the Asuka situation in NXT.
You got to be careful. You can't book your stars too. Otherwise, no one seems realistic to try to take the gold.
Right.
So all in all, nothing crazy happens on this episode. Kind of sets up a couple feuds, maybe going into Fastlane and or WrestleMania. We'll kind of see where this goes. Pretty all in all, pretty solid episode of 205 Live. Akira Tozawa debuting. We'll see Grand Metalik pretty soon.
Exciting.
Yeah.
And that wraps up 205.
So what do you got for NXT? Real quick.
NXT, very super quick because we are just over 90 minutes now. So if you're listening, we appreciate it. I'm just going to go ahead and give you the 3 matches that took place on NXT because none of them really continued storylines that were existing too much. Opening match was Ember Moon versus Aaliyah. Actually, a pretty good match. I'm not too familiar with Aaliyah, but that both ladies looked really great. And obviously, Ember Moon, I think she's being
groomed to be
the next champion or potentially next big woman.
Fantastic look too, by the way. Ember Moon's got a very cool entrance, very cool look,
and the crowd seems to be behind her. So the next match on the card, and that really honestly nothing too much big happened there. Tyler Bate, our UK champion,
Tyler Bate
fought Oney Larkin, who fairly new to NXT.
Yeah,
I'm becoming a big Oney Larkin fan.
Yeah.
He's really good in the ring.
Yes,
he's got an interesting look. He's kind of like a Cesaro, but with really hairy legs.
Like a gangly looking Cesaro.
Someone punched him in the face. I don't know. But great match. Tyler Bate, even more impressed than I already was. Put on a great match. And it seems kind of like Tyler Bate might be wrestling on NXT a little bit more regular than we originally thought.
We'll get into that a little later on down the line. It's kind of up in the air on what they're going to do.
He is listed
UK
on the Wikipedia page for NXT as a member of the roster of NXT.
Really?
So he is listed on there as a member of the NXT roster, which I thought was interesting. Very unique styles, and they did a great job showcasing. Obviously, you got to have your champion win. So Bates wins with the Tyler Driver 97, which
I love.
If you didn't know, he was born in 1997. He is a young man.
19
Same year I was born.
years
He's
old.
He's a baby. He's a little child, and they gave him a belt, and he's running with it.
He is the youngest singles title winner
in WWE history. Yeah, that's good to know. So yeah, nothing too crazy. Just showcase those 2 wrestlers. And our final match of the night is No Way Jose versus what's his name?
The Drifter, Elias Sampson.
Elias, that is how you pronounce his first
name.
Elias Sampson.
Samson gets a level of heat. Oh my god!
And you know that
what's his gimmick?
His gimmick is he's a drifter. He just drifts around from town to town, plays guitar, man. You know,
crappy music on the guitar.
Yeah,
you know that you're like
just
a mega heat heel when the heel commentator says how much he hates you. Cody Graves hates Samson.
Yeah, Corey
literally
Graves buries him on a consistent basis. Which also, side note, Corey Graves is the last time calling NXT.
Yeah, they played a little package of Corey Graves. He is going to just focus on Raw and 205 Live. And was it Nigel McGuinness, I believe, is coming
Nigel
to
McGuinness
NXT.
will replacing him.
I'm not opposed to that at all.
So yeah, he's pretty decent. So
no, that's like getting rid of cheesecake and getting it replaced with a cheeseburger. So either way, I'm cool with it. So.
The package that they showed for Corey Graves was actually really good.
Very well put together.
I did not know. I have not seen a lot of his stuff, and you can't watch the old NXT unfortunately on the network. So not too familiar with some of his older stuff, but. Pretty cool to see. So the final match, No Way Jose picks up the win, obviously. With his finisher, the fastball punch, or sometimes they call it the pinch, which is essentially a pop-up super punch to the face. Mm-hmm. The only note I really took here is how difficult both of these gimmicks are going to be to get over on the main roster. And No Way Jose, his gimmick is he dances, and I decided to look up a couple dancing themed wrestlers. Fandango, Disco Inferno, Too Cool, just
Scotty
to name
Tuhani.
a couple. Scotty Tuhani, yes, of Too Cool.
Grandmaster Sexay.
So it's not impossible to get over. I feel like there would be
Brodus Clay.
I feel like there'd be an easier time getting No Way Jose over on the main roster than Elias Sampson. That's for sure.
See, I was thinking the other way around. I think Elias Sampson could maybe adapt it into get away from the guitar thing, maybe, and just kind of be a
brooding loner kind of thing.
No Way Jose is going to have to drop the dancing gimmick.
No, see, I love it.
It's not gonna. I want to see a heel turn and have him just be because he's a big guy. He's a monster.
See, I disagree. You throw No Way Jose into the lower mid card of SmackDown, and he fits in perfectly.
Yes.
I mean, kind of occupies that space of like a golden truth where it's not really he's never gonna be world champion. He's never gonna be maybe a tag team champion as like a joke or something like that.
Yeah.
But that's fine. Like there's guys who are literally
But he's a big guy. He can. Vince McMahon likes big sweaty men.
We'll see that. We'll see, man.
So
there you go. That's kind of a recap of all of this week's shows.
real quick, they did show a small package of NXT Takeover, Nakamura backstage after.
Oh, yes.
They're checking on him, and Cassius Ohno is there helping Nakamura.
Yeah, so for the uninitiated, Chris Hero on the indie scene.
And if you're not familiar with him, you probably wouldn't have even recognized him in the background because he was wearing a suit, just a big guy with long blonde hair. Or light brown,
maybe setting up for something at the next takeover.
I'm thinking that's where it's
the
going to go.
Next heir to the title.
I see either Ohno or maybe Roderick Strong getting.
I think Strong might be a ways off. I think Ohno might be.
Ohno was around a long time ago.
Yeah,
whereas
came back,
still fairly new. So, so that does it for our NXT, and that does it for our recaps of what happened this week. Did you guys want to do the trivia portion of our podcast this week?
Let's do 5. We'll do 5 questions.
We'll do 5 apiece.
So Corey, do you want to introduce what you have here for us?
So for those of you that don't know, one of my jobs is I host trivia. So I decided to do a trivia segment on the podcast. It's going to be wrestling related. I'm going to ask you each 5 questions.
So just ask 5 total.
5 total.
So back and forth 5 times. So him 1. Yeah.
Okay, so who wants to go first?
Well, it's rock, paper, scissors.
Real quick. All right, this is.
I will go first.
Travis is going to go first. Here's one, a little bit of history. I know you weren't a wrestling fan of WWE when this happened, but maybe you'll know. The historic moment when Hulk Hogan body slammed Andre the Giant took place at what WrestleMania?
That was WrestleMania 3 at Pontiac, Michigan, 90,000.
That is correct.
Ding, ding, ding.
Ding, ding, ding. I think that worked. That is correct. So that's a point for you, Travis.
Fantastic.
Let's move on to something a little bit more recent here for Adam. How long did it take Goldberg to beat Brock Lesnar at Survivor Series?
1 minute, 28 seconds.
That is incorrect.
I'm close.
That is incorrect. It is not 1 minute, 28. Do you know what it is, Travis?
Oh,
I want to say it was 148.
No, I know that. I know it too.
What is it?
It's 126.
It is 126.
Ooh,
yes.
Neither of us got that right. All right.
Nobody got it. But since you had a chance to steal, we're going to go ahead and go back to Adam.
Okay.
Let's see here. How many times did the WWE Championship change hands in 2016?
Ooh.
How many times did it change hands last year? Think out loud. Who do you know for sure had the belt in 2016? The WWE Championship.
Sheamus started it off, I believe. Then to Roman, then to Triple H. Back to Roman. Dean Ambrose, AJ Styles. I'm gonna say 6.
No,
that is incorrect.
Oh.
So I'm just gonna count them off here.
Okay.
The year started with Triple H as the champion. No, with Roman Reigns as the champion.
Correct.
Triple H won at the Royal Rumble, so that's 1 title change.
1 title change. Correct.
Yep. And then held that until
WrestleMania.
Yep.
Dropped to Roman at
WrestleMania, so that's 2 title changes. Roman carried the belt into Money in the Bank, where he lost it to Seth Rollins, so that's 3. Dean Ambrose cashed in Money in the Bank, that's 4.
Seth Rollins had it for about a minute.
Ambrose lost it at, I want to say it was Backlash to AJ Styles, so that's 5. And then Styles.
2016.
That rounds it out. So Styles carried it into 2017. So that is 5 title changes.
Correct. That's another point for Travis.
Thank you.
Good job.
We finally have it. So that's 2-zip.
Okay, let's go ahead and move on to attitude area, I guess you could say, towards the end. The very first TLC match.
Wait. Who's this for?
Adam.
Why does he get the advantage?
You just got it right. So
I got it right.
I know you got it right.
So it goes back to him? Man,
how many points do you have, Travis?
2.
And how many does he have?
Fine, let's go. Give him a shot.
This is multiple choice, so that may help you. The very first TLC match took place at SummerSlam 2000. Featured the Dudley Boys, the Hardys, and Edge and Christian. Who won the match? What tag team walked away? TLC won. Tag team champions.
TLC won. Edge and Christian.
Edge and Christian is correct. That is correct. Good job.
Good job.
That is a point for Adam.
Tables with the belts.
Yeah. That was that the infamous spear from the top of the ladder, or was that TLC 2?
I don't think that was 1.
No, that was TLC 2 because that was at Mania.
Yeah. 2 was by far the best
one.
TLC. Let's go ahead and let's do 2 true or false apiece.
Okay.
And then that will be the end. You have a chance to win if he gets both of his true or falses wrong.
Okay.
So we'll start with you. Founding member of the... Actually, no, this is probably going to be better for Travis, because Travis was a WCW fan.
He just got the last one right, so it goes to me, man.
Founding member of the NWO, Scott Hall, has never won a world championship in WCW or WWE. True or false? He's never won the world title.
That is true.
That is true. All right, Adam, I don't think you can win anymore, but let's do this anyways.
You have to clean sweep on this.
Let's see here. True or false? Seth Rollins defeated Jinder Mahal to become the inaugural NXT champion.
False.
That is incorrect. That is actually true.
Really?
He did beat Jinder Mahal.
Raise my hand.
We got two more questions, or
I've already that already seals the deal. I mean, ask him anyway.
Okay. True or false? Hardcore Legendary Funk has yet to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. True or false?
That is true.
That's false. He is inducted.
Really?
2009.
Oh, wow.
I think Dusty Rhodes inducted Terry and his brother into the Hall of Fame.
That checks that. So wait. So is he inducted as just part of the Funks, or is he inducted solo?
He's still in the Hall, I imagine. I think
because Ric Flair's in there twice. Once as a Horseman, once as Ric Flair.
Probably just the one time then.
Okay.
And then the last one is Hulk Hogan has held the WCW Heavyweight Championship more times than the WWE Championship. True or false?
That is correct.
False.
Really?
He's held both 6 times.
All I can think about,
actually tied.
All I can think about is WCW circa 2000 when the belt changed hands just by blinking. Like it was like the belt changed hands like once every day.
It was 6
like
each.
The hardcore title.
All right, so I wasn't going to give you a prize, but since you were whining about it, your prize this week is the SmackDown 3-disc Best of 10th Anniversary DVD set of SmackDown.
Thank
you. The best matches.
Fantastic.
Featuring The Undertaker, Edge, John Cena.
Yeah, look at that. We have here...
probably some Kurt Angle, Eddie Guerrero.
Probably some Mr. America on here.
Mr. America.
A little bit of everything. Oh, man. Can I skip the whole Vicky Guerrero part, though?
You may.
Right.
Get all 3 discs there. I think she's only on disc 2 and 3.
Thank
so.
God. All right. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I will be defending this on the next show.
No, actually, you can have that, and I will have a new prize next week.
Excellent.
Or whenever we have our next show, around Elimination Chamber time.
So we'll possibly be doing another show before Elimination Chamber as like a pre-show.
Yeah, for the pay-per-view.
Definitely be doing another one the week after.
If not, yeah.
If not then definitely the week after. So, Joe, you want to play us out?
You can catch us on Twitter. I am heel_Corey.
I am at x.tx.
And I am Styles by Sensei.
And you can follow us at Audio Suplex.
Hey guys, we would like to thank the band Wax for our intro and outro music. You can check them out at waxoh.bandcamp.com. You have been listening to the Nerd Complex Podcast Network.